Welcome to the Governor Show. The Governor Show is dedicated to board enthusiasts and aims to debunk the myth around board governance. The Governor Show is a series of episodes featuring talented and experienced guests who will share their experience with us about board governance. The content of this show will be available in video format on our YouTube channel, in podcast format on Spotify and on Apple Podcast, and of course, everything you need to know about the show will be available on our website. I'm Xavier for the Governor Show, and today's guest to speak about board diversity and board culture is Pascale Simon. Welcome, Pascale. Yes,
Thank you.
Can take off your mask. How are you, Pascale?
I'm doing really well.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm really pleased to be here also.
Perfect. Before going there, I would like to introduce you properly, if I may. So, Pascale, you are a talented executive with more than 20 years experience in board and executive search,
Indeed.
board assessment, leadership development, and C-suite succession. Definitely owning the board practice, you are now the founder of Seewhy, a company dedicated to board advisory excellence. Welcome, Pascale.
Thank you.
So before going into details into the topics, I would like to hand over an object. So I prepared something for you, pretty nice. This object is a yin and yang symbol.
Thank you.
Please.
Very nice.
Yes. But it's not only an object to make you happy, but it's an object which is related to what you do and what you excel in. So let me read this article about this symbol for you. All right?
Thank you.
So, the yin and yang is a symbol of complementarity and is representing the need of gender diversity and representing culture in boards. The complementarity that is crucially needed in board nowadays. And I think it's the right moment, Pascale, to dive into this topic together. Don't you think?
With pleasure.
All right. So for the audience, let's remind the theme of the day. The theme of the day is the new trends of today's board culture. So my first question for you, Pascale, is the following. When we speak about board culture, first thing that comes into mind is about, of course, gender diversity, right? This is a pretty hot topic for all boards, of course. But are women in boards still seen as a legal obligation or a true asset, especially now in those severe economic periods?
It's a good question, but I guess it's more a provocation than a question. Because
you know me, Pascale.
gender diversity in the board is obvious. It's a true and valuable asset. The business case for gender diversity is really clear.
Yes.
But it will not happen on its own.
Okay.
And so there are still a lot of cultural barriers to get there, and still a lot of barriers for women to get on board.
What you just said, it means that it's not a reality. It's still complicated to accept the concept.
I do think it's still complicated, and there are several reasons for that. One of the reasons is that there are still too few women in C-level roles, and therefore, and we all know that C-levels is really a nice way to get into board.
Indeed.
And so, as long as we don't have women at C-level, it will be really a barrier to get women at board level. And it's really interesting to see that in some organizations, when you have women at C-level, you have much more women at board level, and the inverse is also true.
Sure.
When you have women at board level, they tend to appoint much more women in leadership position.
I understand what you mean. But I have a question about what you just said. Okay, more women need to get to C-level positions. But what I don't get is that why? Because actually you have such a large women talent all over the place who are not at C-level position, but could eventually, with their skills and experience, feed well a board and also give more skills and new competences around the place.
That it's a big debate, and it's still a major hurdle. Is that everybody knows that, is that for the same position, men will apply if they have 50% or less of the competencies required, while the women, if they have 90%, they won't dare to apply. And so it's really in the education,
yes,
and at the early stage of the education that there is something linked to self-confidence or a way to impose oneself. And I've seen during the 20 years many women with a lot of competency who were really afraid to apply, who were not sure they have the right competencies. And this is where it begins.
Yes.
And then there is all the debate about how we can support women making a career.
Yes.
And if we see in big company that or in smaller company that you hire 50% women, 50% men at the start of the career, women stop at one point and they don't want to grow further because either they can't afford it, either they don't support the pressure anymore.
Yes.
And so this is where things need to change, and to start to put more women at the board level is right, but if you don't do anything at the lowest level of the organization, it's inefficient.
Yes, I understand what you mean. And do you see some change nowadays? Have you seen some evolution in the way we handle that? But it's still complicated.
Well, it's still complicated, even if, and it has been the International Day of the Woman some days ago, and we see a lot of commitment and a lot of pledges from many companies.
Yes.
I do think that some countries like Belgium or France, for example, have imposed quotas in the boards of listed companies. And we hear more and more that those quotas could come also at executive committee level.
Yes.
So that's one way to get there. You have countries like the UK, there they have put in place targets to be reached or corporate governance recommendation.
Yes.
This is good, but it's not enough yet. And indeed, how can we bring women at the highest level of the organization? Because it has been proven that gender diversity, but like any diversity, is a true asset for companies, and especially during a crisis like the one we
all know right now. So thank you very much to enlightening us on this first topic, Pascale. Very interesting. I have a second question for you, Pascale, is about profile diversity. We speak about gender diversity, but not profile diversity. It's pretty linked to gender diversity in a way, because we need different profile, and sometimes women can feed the gap men cannot do, right? And
a lot of gaps.
A lot of gaps, indeed. So what is the threshold of the traditional board member profiles? We all know those kind of a dusty profiles, old-fashioned sometimes. I won't say macho, but almost, you see, versus actually the less traditional profiles and skills we need to provide a good board efficiency. What do you think about this one?
I do think that, first of all, the role of the board is evolving, and that today the agenda has topics like building a purpose-driven culture, talent development, sustainability that were not on the agenda before, or at least not at the top of the agenda. And those were topics that were driven by the management. Today, the board has to play a much more active role towards these topics, which require other profile.
Sure.
Secondly, board roles used to be sometimes quite nice to have for newly retired executive. That was maybe more in the past.
I know that, yeah.
And today, I think that what we ask from board members in terms of commitment, in terms of effectiveness, in terms of experience, in terms of a long-term strategic view, implies that we have to look for new profiles.
Yes.
That's for sure. So you will anyway see new profiles coming. The experience at C-level and especially CEO experience is still highly looked for, and CEO are really receive a lot of requests to be on a board, even when they are still in a CEO role. But with the topics the board have to face, the boards have to face, like climate impact, ESG issues.
Yes,
you must have other experience and expertise. And so today, you have companies looking for a specialist in decarbonization of the activities, a specialist in putting in place the right sustainability strategy. You even see in some company, and it will come, that they are putting in place a committee like the risk committee or the audit committee, a sustainability committee that is really focusing on this topic. And then you need to bring experts who have done it somewhere else. And for if I go back to decarbonization, then you go to the oil and gas sector, to the steel industry, for other companies to look how they manage it and how they face it.
Are they looking for experts of board members who do have those experiences?
Of course, it's the sheep with the 8 legs.
Yeah.
But sometimes, if we go,
I would like to have a sheep like that.
I do think that for some topics you don't have people who have. If we go back to some specialization, sometimes those people don't have access to the C-level role, and so you have to accept they've never been in a C-suite position. And they've never had a board exposure, but they bring the expertise you want to have. And on the other side, you might also go for younger profile if you take digital transformation that require cybersecurity knowledge, that require data management knowledge. You are obliged to take younger profile who have not been in a CEO role sometimes, and so you bring them at board level. And so it's also diversity in terms of age, and I'm not speaking about ethnical race, that are of course also very important.
Yes. So we spoke about gender diversity, we spoke about profile diversity, but I would like to have more information about board member and the way we assess those board members, because I guess today it's very important also to assess those talents. What's your experience? Do you think board members are sufficiently assessed today in terms of soft skills, for instance? Because we all speak about hard skills, but the soft skills through boards is very important. What's your experience in this?
But I think speaking about skill assessment, it's first speaking about board review and board review to assess the effectiveness of a board. And it's still something that happens. The governance and recommends that board are assessed on a yearly basis, and usually it's every 3 years that there is an external advisor doing the evaluation. It's important to assess each board member, but it's also very important to assess how they work together, the dynamics within the board, because it's key that the boards work as a team. And therefore you need complementarity, you need respect that must be assessed, you need to have trust among the board members, you need trust between the board and the executive team, and that must be also evaluated.
And do you think this teamwork you are talking about is always the case? I have the weakness to think that sometimes all those board members are strongly opinionated, sometimes even egocentric, a bit looking for themselves. You spoke about the risk, what's my risk at the board, but not the risk of the company. Do you see also something there which is evolving, that working as a team is more and more the good practice?
I do think that the board, they have no choice. And when we see the arrival of a lot of stakeholders, activists, if you are not working as a team in a board, then you are lost.
Yes.
So that's one point.
Mean the death of the company?
I wouldn't go there, but we've seen recently
Indeed.
Some CEO who had to let go. Maybe maybe not for the right reason, but you need really a strong board and
Yes.
that is working together and to see, even if you have activists on the board, say how do you work with them? Sometimes
Yes.
they bring interesting point of view, but how do you work with them as a team for the best of the company, for the performance of the company, but also to meet, if we speak about ESG, today you have clients, you have suppliers, you have stakeholders, you have the community that is looking what is the company doing for ESG goals. And so you need as a team to make sure that you meet their request on that topics. I do think also, coming back to the egos and coming back to the first point we discussed, it has been proven that if you have female in a board, they dare to be more independent in their thinking, to express more their opinions. Why? Because they are not part of the all boys network. And what does it mean also is that they dare to challenge much more the CEO, but the board, which might lead to less aggressive investment strategy, where the CEO has looked at more options in his decision to make acquisition, to make investment. And so you can bring in diversity with women, with younger profile, with specialists. You can also put down the egos of some people and make sure that everyone dares to express himself.
And respect each other.
And respect each other.
You spoke about the best of the company, for the best of the company. You always repeat that. I think it's obvious. But when you have strong shareholders, when you have investors who can play these financial levers, and then maybe put pressure on boards because their own interest in terms of financial statements is different than those young talents we bring on the board, the women on board, etc. It's sometimes difficult, right? There is sometimes a problem between board matters and shareholders matters. And for the good of the company, we need to stay stable in the way we manage this, right?
Yeah.
All those financial, levers and egos and things like that. So I understand well what you just said. Thank you very much, Pascale, for those enlightening us. I think very interesting indeed this conversation we had with Pascale today. I would like to summarize a couple of takeaways here. First of all, please bring women in boards. I think this is one of the main takeover here, just to increase the way we are efficient at boards, respect people, calm down the temper of maybe strongly opinionated board members. That's really important. So put gender diversity at the top of the list. What I also hear today is about new skills, on board new skills like risk management, like focusing on diversity, but also on data protection, on cyber security, all those new talents we do need to make sure that the board is well balanced in terms of risk.
Indeed.
Right? Yeah. And assess board members. Please do that. Assess board member, evaluate board member, work together as a team. Forget about all those financial pressure around the place, but without a team, it's almost the death of the company, right? We need to work perfectly there. And I think that's the three takeaways I should bring over to you, over to the one who are happy to follow us the show. So thanks again, Pascale, for having helped to debunk the myth surrounding board governance today with us, Pascale. It's a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me.
Yes. Can I ask you to bring the object
Of
and
course.
put the object on the Governor Show shelf? Thank you very much.
I can choose.
Yeah, you can put it there, perfect. For the audience, it's very important to understand what this shelf means. During the episode, every single speaker, guest, will put this object on the shelf. And then we could actually recognize all the talents we need, and all the episode will be summarized on the shelf. So just if you like the show, if you want to follow us, if you want to know more about governance, please follow us. Thank you very much. I'm Xavier Pansard for the Governance Show.